Golf Central on YouTube, brought to you by Apex Irons from Callaway.
Hello, I'm Anna Whiteley, and this is your Golf Central update. So Collin Morikawa won the second major of his career at the Open Championship and joined Cara Banks after it was all over.
Collin Morikawa, you now have 2 major victories in just 8 attempts. 2 of those have come in debut appearances. Now, you said you expected it to be grueling today. You closed out the front 9 with those 3 straight birdies. At what point did you start believing that this would be your day?
The time I woke up, and I never felt like it was my tournament until I tapped in, or until I hit that first putt for birdie on 18. Because anything can happen. That's just the game we play. It's the sport we play, and the time we live in is that anything can happen. I'm obviously aware of the leaderboard, but having 2 majors, I feel like I've played more than 8 majors. It's crazy, but having 2, a PGA and the Open, very special. We got 2 more, hopefully, to make it a full, complete circle.
To complete the slam. I like the way you're thinking already. Speaking of the PGA, you came from behind then as well. What a weekend, 65, 64, 68, 66 over the weekend here. How much do you think that experience from Harding Park helped you here this weekend?
It wasn't golf experience. It was just knowledge that I know I can do it. To close it out in a great field, obviously PGA had a very stacked leaderboard. This one had Louis, John Rahm, Jordan, Corey Connors. Like the names go on, and these are the names that you've seen, especially throughout this year, play really, really well, not just in regular tournaments but in majors. But I believe that everything I've done in the past, especially over the past week and a half, was hopefully going to pay off. I just had to focus every shot, be committed, and thankfully we were able to pull it off and take a deep breath after.
You mentioned the past week and a half. I spoke to you about this earlier this week, the value of your appearance at the Scottish Open last week. Your first ever experience of links golf. I'm sure you are a big fan of links golf now.
Love it.
How much value do you put on that appearance?
Huge. I owe everything to the Scottish Open. Even though I think I finished near dead last after making the cut, I still believe in myself that I can come out here and figure out and make the changes necessary. And sometimes you're just rolling the dice. You're just making a bet on yourself on what's going to happen, changing irons, changing into a conventional grip from a certain, feeling distance. And, I just trusted what we were doing. I need to figure out now why it worked like that, not just believe that I can just switch every year I come out here. But I need to figure out the reason behind it to move forward and hopefully contend in a lot more Opens.
Lastly, this one, unlike the PGA, was in front of the crowds. How special was that?
So good to see people, to see all the media, to see fans. Fans out here are some of the best people that I've ever seen. I'm going to look forward to making my trip out to Europe every single time for the Open because they appreciate the game. They love the game for what it is. They understand really how tough it is out there, especially when you have to chip out sideways or you're in the rough. And just to hear them clap and cheer when you walk to certain tee boxes, and it's the best feeling in the world. And to finally tap in a final group, last putt, I finally got that moment to really embrace it. And those couple seconds right after, I'll never forget.
Collin Morikawa, now a 2-time major champion.
So Morikawa has been strong on Sundays at majors, shooting 64 and 66 on the final 2 Sundays of his 2 major titles. No bogeys in either round, and Jaime Diaz and I talked with his coach, Rick Sessenhaus. Was there anything about Collin's performance that exceeded even your expectations? Or have you sort of always known that he's been capable of this kind of achievement at so early on in his career?
Yeah, it's amazing. To think that I know he's going to perform like that under pressure, I can't guarantee it. But he has trained like this for a long, long time. And to just see how he stayed calm and focused throughout all of this was amazing. And to see his short game and the amount of work he's been putting in on his putting to pay off and for him to trust himself down the stretch I'm so proud of him.
Hi, Rick. What was your first impression of Collin when you first met him at 8 years old? And what did you decide were his innate gifts?
Yeah, he was amazing from an early age. He was very coachable, very curious, was very intelligent. Obviously he went to Cal and he was smart, but he always asked good questions. You don't normally get that from a young 8, 9, 10-year-old. And with that, it's easy as a coach now to get excited because someone wants to learn. And he always wanted to learn, and he never looked at failure as a bad thing. He just something that he could keep on doing. So it was great seeing a young player just embrace wanting to get better and having the discipline to do it.
Well, this win is sort of just more evidence about what a quick learner he is. He obviously had very little experience with links golf coming into the Open. The Scottish Open, that was really the only learnings that he could draw upon, following which he made some pretty significant changes to the bag as well. What was his mindset coming into the Open, especially being his debut appearance?
Well, I think he even said it in his interviews. It was to win, and that's every week is his goal to win. And then from that, the preparation needs to fall in line with that. And preparation is everything, certainly with having a great course strategy, working with his great caddy, JJ. And then, as we saw, a lot of equipment issues, not because the equipment was wrong. It's that he needed to tweak a few things with the putting, with adding some weight. He also needed to change a few of the irons because of how the club was digging into the ground. And so he's, again, very aware of his performance and how it is affected by equipment. And, the team at TaylorMade did a great job of making those little adjustments for the week.
Rick, you spoke yesterday about a turning point in Collin's career when he decided at about age 18 to switch from drawing the ball regularly to playing a fade. Could you first explain the source of physical strength that has to develop for a young player to start playing a fade? And is playing a fade a more efficient way to play, in your opinion, professional golf and especially major championships?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I would say fade is always going to be better. I mean, we see throughout history, Nicklaus and times, obviously, with Tiger Woods, that they definitely played fades. I think with Collin, we had just this evolution of young players tend to be quite flexible, maybe not quite as strong in their core and their glute muscles. So they tend to slide more at the hips. They tilt more at the shoulders, and they get what we call underplaying, having to manipulate the hands to close the club face, and unfortunately hit a lot of draws. So as he got stronger, and he then came to me and said, hey, Rick, I would prefer seeing a fade. And so we now had to make some slight changes, but he had put the work in the gym to get stronger in some of those areas for us to now be able to get his playing a little more neutral. And he already had unbelievable club face control. So now we just matched those things up. And then, again, after his freshman year in college, it was just go time.
And what's the most adversity that Collin has faced in his game, and how did he handle it?
Well, I mean, adversity for him is he just looks at it as, again, a complete learning opportunity. I remember at a time his first Genesis Open here at Riviera, he was on the cusp to make it to the WGC event in Mexico. And he had a couple bumpy holes that day. And afterwards, I could tell he was frustrated. And yet it was always about, okay, we're going to do something about that. And so, again, it's how he looks at adversity that's going to be different than others. It's always there's something to learn from it, and we need to get better, whether it's he relying on me or his caddy or other people to say, hey, we got to do something about that. So, there's been times he's certainly been disappointed in college and in professional with maybe losing a playoff to Daniel Berger or something like that. But it was always like, oh, I learned something. Next time that's not going to happen.
Thanks. You have a doctorate in applied psychology. In your opinion, what did Collin get from the Haas Business School at Cal, and how has he applied it to his career?
Well, in order to get that degree in 4 years required a tremendous amount of time management from him, focus, discipline, being able to compartmentalize things. And that's what I'm most proud of him, is that he was able to do two things at an extremely high level. And he knew he had to sacrifice other things to be able to do that. So that's just in his nature, is to be disciplined, goal-oriented, and do what's necessary to get the job done.